The Pac-12 is kind of basically being dismantled, right? So you're going to have USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. That was decided already. They'll go 2024. Joining them now, as of 2 weeks ago, will be Oregon and Washington. They'll also join for next football season, which leaves only Stanford, Cal, Washington State, and Oregon State in the Pac-12 as of right now for 2024. It's not a great spot to be in if you're the Pac-12, but that's the news nonetheless. It's an interesting spot for college football.
Yeah, it's really going to I think it'll end up shaking things up too.
Right, so there's two ways to look at this. One, the Big Ten gets stronger. It was already a very strong conference, probably second to the SEC. But also, two, yes, the Pac-12 gets weaker and down to the point where we're not even sure if there's going to be a Pac-12 conference anymore. But I do want to start by saying, I think overall for the sport of college football, I think it is very good for the entire sport of college football. Is there an argument to be made that for the other programs in those athletic departments that now have to find somewhere to play, there's an argument that holistically, maybe it's not the best, but at the end of the day, out of 32 programs at a major Division I school like a USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, right? Out of the 32, athletic programs that they have, 3 of them will turn a profit. Like basketball usually, football, baseball, occasionally a softball or a soccer, but that's it. And sometimes baseball, sometimes those don't even turn a profit. The football team, that revenue is paying for every other program in the school. So at the end of the day, if you need to move to the Big Ten to make your football program more profitable, you have to do so because it's going to make your athletic department and every other program that you have also more successful and have the chance to profit more. So it's not just, is the football team this, or is it just the other programs here? It's it could have a huge impact on the rest of the programs, good, bad, indifferent, whatever the case may be. But I think from a revenue standpoint, it makes a ton of sense. And to be fair, the Pac-12 have been dragging their feet for years on this. 5 years ago, you see this conference dying, right? They couldn't lock down a TV deal. Sponsors were hit and miss. The marketing for the Pac-12 it just hasn't been very good. Nobody's let me sit down and watch a good Pac-12 football game. No, but I'll watch Wisconsin, Northwestern, even though Northwestern sucks, right? The Big Ten has that draw. And I will say, in terms of college football, they on a weekendly basis, how many teams are there in college football? 130.
That's so many
in major Division I college football. How many games do I have to run to the TV to watch? 4 a weekend, maybe.
I was gonna say 3 to 4.
And that's on good weekends. There's maybe 5 games where I'm wow, I would watch that game. Right now, you could have 5 on the same day in the Big Ten alone. And you could have them all in different time zones. You could have Penn State and, Michigan at noon. And then at 2:15, 3 o'clock, you could have someone in Wisconsin, because that's now an hour behind. You could have somebody play there. You could now have somebody play
Ohio State primetime.
Well, you could have Iowa or something play as well. And then you could finish off. You could have football from noon until 2 a.m. because you could have Oregon, Washington on the West Coast. And so that game doesn't start till 8 o'clock out there, 11 o'clock on the East Coast. So you have airtime from noon until 2 in the morning. It makes a ton of sense for the Big Ten, and I get to watch good football games consistently now.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. You started mentioning, the profitability of different college athletic programs, and to look at the difference between sports. Yes, of course, you have to favor football because that brings in all of your revenue. Just for numbers purposes, less than 3% of college baseball programs nationally turn a profit. There were only 4 to do it last year.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
LSU.
Yes.
Ole Miss.
No.
Vanderbilt.
Yep.
Hold up. Florida.
Yep. One more.
Is it SEC?
Yes.
Arkansas.
Mississippi State. Those are the only 4 college baseball programs that actually made money. So when you look around at the different sports, and people always make the argument that it is unfair for other sports to have to kind of do what football does, but they're the ones that pay for you to even exist at that college.
I could not agree. It was you can dislike it, but it's that they're keeping your program afloat.
It's football and basketball.
This is the whole the whole WNBA NBA thing. It's no. We can rip on the NBA contracts. you are a subsidized NBA league. Like,
Yeah.
the NBA is giving you spare money to keep you afloat.
Right.
So, like, we can complain, yes, we can have discussions, but at the end of the day, like, you have to realize you're not here without the good grace of somebody else in terms, like, another program, whether that's the NBA to the WNBA, whether that's football to men's soccer, women's lacrosse, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. It's just you need to be able to realize how important football is to your program, to your university, and be okay with decisions being made based off of that. Right?
I couldn't agree more. Life's not fair. Deal with it.
It isn't. And I think overall, this is going to create a fantastic just product for college football.
I think for the sport, it's good.
Yes. And I think the different things that they've been doing, the steps that they've been taking, right? The playoff is expanding coming up, which I think is perfect. You involve more fan bases. Get more people interested in watching college football because it actually comes down to not just the top 4 teams.
And I don't think it's the end of the world. You could do a West Coast conference with Washington State, Oregon State, Stanford, Cal, throw Boise State, San Diego State in there. Maybe you can get like a Wyoming in there.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
There are ways to preserve the Pac-12.
For basketball, you get Gonzaga in that. That's a great get.
Exactly.
Gonzaga's playing bigger games.
There's a lot of different things that you can do. It doesn't mean the Pac-12 is dead. It just means it's becoming less relevant
It's a little bit
than
different.
the Big Ten.
Yeah, and also, to be fair, like, Washington State's not winning a conference as it stands right now.
No.
If you make a West Coast conference, they have a chance. Same with Oregon State. Oregon State's not gonna beat out USC, UCLA, Oregon. That's just not. That's never gonna happen.
No.
But if they leave the conference and you get a couple extra teams, now you're the top dog. And I'm not saying it's gonna be a major conference, but it'd be one of the stronger non-Power 5 conferences if you would consider it outside of the main couple, like the Big 12, ACC, Big 10, and SEC, obviously. So if that's, like, I guess, the fifth and the least of a Power 5, there's an argument to be made that, like, in a 12-team, 16-team playoff, that the winner would get an automatic bid. And so now there's actually more of a path for an Oregon State, a Stanford, or whoever to get in as long as they win that conference. And I think it's logical that they could do so.
Right, and I think it would improve the quality of play of those teams too that haven't been the greatest, right? Like, it's going to bring up teams that haven't been able to compete with those top dogs, because then if you can win your conference and you get a bid to go, then look, I don't care what conference I have to play in. If I get a chance to go to the college football playoffs and I can do it through a little bit easier of a route, and that's going to bring more talent to those schools that haven't had it in so long.
Right, I agree.
But that's pretty much all we have for today.